This is a lot harder than I thought. Hey everyone, it's Samia, and right now I'm going to be doing my first ever book review. I'm really excited. As you can see, I'm doing a book review for the book Find You in the Dark by Meredith Walters. I just finished this book last night. I'm so excited to let you guys know my thoughts about this book. So, let's start off, because this is my first one, so please bear with me with this. I'm going to first do a non-spoiler, just kind of like a description, how I felt about the book, all that, and then later towards the end I'll be doing a spoiler, my full thoughts. I'm not going to leave anything out, I'm just going to go with the flow. So, I first want to give like a description about the book, what it's about, and the characters and stuff. So, this book is about a young girl named Maggie May Young, and sorry, I'm so out of breath. She lives kind of a boring life. I mean, just to be straightforward, she doesn't have much adventure. She kind of is stuck in this rut of doing the same routine over and over again, and she really just wants something different. And so when Clayton Reed stumbles into town, this mysterious man, everyone is like, who is he? What is he about? And what is he here for, you know? And so she decides to become his friend because why not? Be nice, right? No, but she decides to become his friend, and I mean, he kind of is very quiet. He doesn't want to be talked to. You can just tell from his body language. He doesn't want to be talked to. He just wants to be left alone. But she decides to not bother him, but go after him anyways. And so things happen. They become friends, and Maggie doesn't realize how much Clay is really struggling. He deals with his with a lot of his own demons that weigh him down and really, really bring him down. And she doesn't exactly realize that right away. And so it's about them and their love, and if it's enough to be able to save him from his demons and bring him out of this darkness that he's in. And this is a lot harder than I thought. Because I don't want to give anything away, of course, and it's about them and them seeing if love is enough. So that's basically the gist of the book. So, there are a few characters in this book that I would like to mention. This is still going to be non-spoiler. I'm just going to say my basic thoughts on them, who they are, you know, what role they play in this story. So first we have Maggie. Not going to say So first we have Maggie, and she is witty. She is so witty. It's hilarious. Like, she's hilarious. That's my next thing that I use to describe her. She was funny. I would say that she's strong because of what she endured in this, endured in this story and what she dealt with. But at the same time, I felt that she made very bad decisions, and she kind of like partially contributed to the ongoing problem in this book. She kind of avoids the problem. Is that what I just said? I think I just said that. She has a mom who is an accountant and a dad who is a librarian, and they are both overprotective of her. They are still very loving parents and very kind and generous and there for her, but they are very overprotective in this book. So we have Rachel, which is her best friend, and she's hilarious too. I really liked her character. She was a great friend, and she's also very funny and very supportive of her friend, and really knew when to tell her when she was wrong and when she was doing something not right, and told her the truth. Then we have Daniel, and Daniel is also one of Maggie's friends, and I really, really enjoyed his character as well. He was very, very sweet and very overprotective and very caring of his friends, Rachel and Maggie. At times he was kind of like meh, because he had this whole like his own girlfriend issue, and so he was kind of like, half the book he was kind of like, really, maybe you are making bad decisions too. But he was very there for the girls, and it was really nice to have this male best friend that was there for them. Then we had Clayton, of course, and he brought me on this roller coaster, and half the time he broke my heart, and half the time I didn't know what to do with him in my mind, really. And he honestly made me mad. Which I can explain more in the in the spoiler part. He was very destructive and very irrational, but I could definitely see where that was coming from and why it was happening. and also I could see that he was developing and he was really trying to be better. He was trying to be the best that he could be for himself and for Maggie, and he just was really trying. But it was just so hard to see him try so hard and then make a mistake, and it was just like, no, why did you do that? Like, you know, I was just rooting for him the whole time, and so when something bad happened, I was just like, no, why? You were doing so good. And I think we will see, because this is a series, I think it's a duology, so there's just 2. I think we will see more development and stuff in the next book, because it does continue. So, Clay's parents, I have one word for them, and one word for them only. Assholes. That's it. That's completely it. They are horrible parents. They are horrible, horrible people, and I absolutely hated them the whole entire book, and especially at the end, I just could not deal with them. I was so annoyed with them. I was just over it. I couldn't comprehend how rude and not caring these parents could be. Then we had Ruby and Lisa, which that was his guardians that he lived with. Ruby is his aunt, and then Lisa is his aunt's girlfriend. And Clay lived with them up in Virginia, and his parents lived in Florida, and he used to be obviously from Florida. I thought they were great. I love them. I love the diversity of them because they were a gay couple, and so I really liked that. It was just different. You don't normally see that in some books, and I like the diversity. I love how accepting they were and how caring they were, and they were so accepting of Maggie, and it was great. I have writing, so the next thing I want to talk about is the writing. I really enjoyed A. Meredith Walters' writing. I found it to be really good. I thought it was really entertaining. I loved how she made her character so witty and so funny. They stood up for themselves, and they did not take any crap from anybody. It was great. I loved that because it's so hard to see a character that is just stomped on and beat on in books. It's just hard because you're like, no, stand up for yourself, say something. And these characters definitely did. So again, I thought it was entertaining, I thought it was super interesting, and I really enjoyed the characters. So now I'm going to go a little bit more into the more of a spoiler part. So if you haven't read the book and you want to, go ahead and just exit out now. Or if you don't ever plan on reading this book and would like to know how it ends and how it happens and what happens and all that, go ahead and keep watching while I dive into this spoiler-full part of the book. So, I took this whole thing of notes. Well, I took like sticky notes around the book, and then at the end I just wrote them here. And I think I'm going to do it a different way for the second book, just to see how the best way is to take these notes. So, it starts here in the beginning of the book, and then goes as the book goes on. So, I first wrote that I really did not like how Maggie dropped everything for him all the time. She would be going to track practice, and it was her senior year, and she was getting scholarships for this stuff, and she was like the star of the team. She would just drop practice for him and go off and have a day with him. It's like, no, like, you need to know, still need to do stuff for yourself. You need to be who you still are. Like, yes, it's okay to be like adventurous still, but you should still be true to yourself and take time for yourself and do what you need to do. He was very supportive because in this book we realized that Clayton suffered from mental illnesses. He had bipolar disorder, and also, was it multiple personality? Oh no, now I gotta look because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Okay, I can't find it, but I'm like 95% sure he suffered from bipolar disorder and multiple personality. If I'm not mistaken, I feel so crappy that I can't find it in this book in this time. But he suffered from mental illnesses, and she was very supportive of that. I really, really liked that. And she was also very, like, strong. Like, she stood up for herself. She didn't take crap from him most of the time. Sometimes she did, and it was kind of annoying. It's like, no, stand up for yourself like you were 2 pages ago. Like, she stood up for herself for the most part, and it was great. In the beginning, I really could not put my hand on how I felt about Clayton because I just couldn't rationalize why he was acting like that. Later, we learned that he suffered from mental illness, and it got easier for me to understand why he was doing that, but at the same time, he was making no effort to better himself and take his medication, and because he thought that Maggie's love would be enough. And this whole time I was like, no, that's not enough. You need to take your medication. You should go see a therapist. Like, yes, it was hard for him, but at the same time, it's hard to think that you're going to get better without putting any effort to try and get better, you know? So there was that. I really, really liked how Daniel was so overprotective, and I really did not like, I'm going back and forth, obviously, I'm so sorry, I should be more organized. It's just hard. I really did not like how Maggie made excuses for Clay all the time. It's like, no, he should not be always given this, like, easy, like, he shouldn't be let off so easy. Like, you gotta let him know, like, that hurt, that wasn't right. Like, you can't just be like, oh, okay. Like, you have to, like, express yourself and vocalize your feelings, because, or else he won't know. I really didn't like the way Maggie began changing, and she was, like, skipping practice. She was lying to her parents. She was sneaking out. Like, she was really changing for the worse, I feel like. She was changing, and I feel like Clay was getting kind of better, but she was changing for the worse. And her parents weren't acceptive, her parents didn't accept Clay. They knew that he was a good kid, but they didn't like that he was changing their daughter. I didn't, like, of course it was unintentional, but, you know. Also really it bugged me how she wanted to help Clay, but she would be like, okay, maybe I should research his mental illness, and then she would look at it and be like, no, I can't. I'm gonna not look it up anymore. It's like, well, you can't just avoid it. Like, you can't, you know, like, it really bothered me how she wanted to help so bad, but she was also convinced that her love would be enough. And it's like, no, you really should look into it. If you really cared about this person, you should look into it and, you know, really try and help them. Like, you should really help them get the help that they actually need. I liked how later in the book, Clayton started to become more accepted within Maggie's group of friends. It was really, really heartwarming to see him be accepted by the boys and be invited places and being treated nicely, because he was a great character. He was so nice, and you could really see that he felt so bad for his actions, because right after he would, like, snap out of it and be like, no, this wasn't right, I'm so sorry, blah blah blah. It's like he had no control over it. He couldn't help himself because he wasn't taking care of himself in the way that he should have. The book took this turn, and I was not expecting this at all. It wasn't a twist, I would say, but it definitely took a turn where Clay gets in a fight with his mom and dad because they come and visit him up in Virginia, and he thinks that they're going to take him away forever, which they were. Not thinks, like, they were told that they're going to take him away and put him in this institution for basically forever, he felt like. And he went to Maggie's house to say goodbye because he was going to run away, and she decided to run away with him. And I was like, what? Like, that really blew my mind. I wasn't expecting it. I was really, like, thrown off by that. And she just gets up in the middle of the night and leaves with him, and they leave to this motel. And she starts to realize, like, hey, maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe I should get him some help that he actually needs. And she decides to call her mom and tell her, like, hey, I need to come home. This isn't right. And Clay finds out, and then he goes into this huge rampage. He is so upset with her. He thinks that she was lying the whole time about loving him. He thinks that, like, this has been fake the whole time. I thought I could trust you. And he goes off. He locks the door and starts trashing the hotel room. And she tries to get in, but she couldn't. And then she goes to get a new key, and it took her like 15 minutes to get this spare key for their hotel room. And then when she comes in, she finds Clay in the bathroom with his wrists. I can't talk. She goes in the bathroom and finds Clay in the bathroom with his wrists slit, and he was, like, barely conscious, and so she dialed 911, and it goes through this whole recovery of Clayton, and that part seriously broke my heart. It was so hard to read, that part. It was so tragic and sad, and I really felt for Maggie because she really wanted to help him. In the end, she realized, hey, I can't do this alone. I need help. And of course, she wasn't meaning Clay like, oh, I don't love you, I don't need you. She really just wanted the best for him, and it was hard for him to see that, and so he felt like he had done everything wrong and did not deserve to even be alive anymore, and so he took it upon himself to try and end his life. And the paramedics came, and it ended up being where Maggie had saved his life, and his mom comes in and is, like, so bitter towards Maggie, and it's like, excuse me, this girl just saved your son. Like, no, like, she didn't force him to run away or anything, like, you know. And I really just could not stand Clay's parents. And basically the ending, it ends where Clayton goes off to a rehabilitation center, and is getting the help that he needs, and Maggie needs to start to live her own life. And then it goes on to like the epilogue and all that. And so the second book is about him and his recovery, and I think I'm only on page 4, so I'm not too sure. They get thrown back together and then goes from there. But I'm so happy to see him finally getting the help that he really needs, because it was so hard to see him throughout this whole book be this roller coaster of events, because he had his really high highs and then his really low lows, and it was just so hard to read because it was so hard for me to not accept his mental illness, but understand it, because he had options to get help and he just refused to because he thought that Maggie could do it for him. And it was hard to see that it didn't work out that way, you know? It was hard for me to see him struggle so much when all he really wanted was to be with Maggie and to make her happy and to be happy finally, because he felt like he could never have happiness. But I'm really excited to get into the second one. I hope that this review, I don't know if this was a good review. If you've read this book and you could give me some like criticism, constructive criticism or whatever on this, I would love it, because this is my first review and so I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm still learning, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you'll see a review for the second book soon. But yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!